Today, we are going to be talking about a hobby that Freddie has picked up, which he quickly learned all on his own, and that is Gresham's Law. But what is the hobby that you have recently started doing?
Collecting coins, mainly pennies and nickels.
Pennies and nickels. And what are we doing with these pennies and nickels?
Sorting them, finding the old ones.
Right? And so, what is the year on the pennies that you are looking for to sort out?
1984 earlier.
82?
82.
82 and earlier, because those are the copper ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Freddie has grabbed a big stash of coins that I had, and they were just a bunch of mixed change, and nobody had gone through it for a very long time. And he dumped it out and started going through all the coins and finding the wheat pennies, finding the copper pennies, and separating all the nickels and dimes and rolling up the quarters and realizing now that the copper are definitely the ones that we are trying to hoard the most of because of Gresham's law. They're worth more in copper value than they are in the face value, right? About 2.5 cents more, just slightly under that.
Yeah, the metal value is like 3 cents.
Yeah. So, are you having fun doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the oldest coins that you have found so far?
The oldest coin that I've found from that box was 1930. The oldest coin I own is 1906.
And it's a 1906, and you found a 1930 wheat penny in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? So how many people we got in here? 28. All right, so that's good enough. We are going to open up a package that we have just received today, and it is very heavy. It's a small box. It's only, it's not very big. And I don't want to give away the name of the person because sometimes they want to remain anonymous. But we're just going to say it's from P, right? And so I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to cut this thing open, and then Freddie's going to actually open the package and see what's in here. All right.
Hard and styrofoam.
Whoops. Drop that. Alright. So there's a letter here on top. So let's go ahead and open that up. But let's read it quietly to ourselves first to make sure that in case he wants to remain anonymous, and then we'll read that out loud if it's okay. Alright, so. Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh.
How long ago was this? I guess it was a few weeks ago that he's mailed it off. Okay. I think this is pretty good. It was actually addressed to Freddie.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is to me as well, but I think it's okay to read. We're still just going to keep them. It says puts. Oh, okay. It says who the YouTuber is. Okay, you can remain. I don't know if you want to remain anonymous or not, but man, that is just so cool. Thank you so much, Phil. All right. This is cool. Go ahead and read what it says if you can there, Freddie.
Hope you enjoy the enclosed, mostly, baseball cards. Use them. You seem fit. Keep some, use it as eBay inventory, trade, etc. I found these in a storage unit in somewhere in India.
Yeah.
Somewhere in India.
That's okay.
And thought you'd love these.
Oh, way cool. Way
from India.
Cool. No, Indiana.
Or Indiana.
Yeah. All right. Indiana. Well, cool. It looks like it was something that was sent to you. It goes on to say, Simon, thank you for dedication toward the economic subject. I am always, looking forward to the next videos. Hello from Indiana. Yeah. Man, thank you so much, and I hope you're catching this video.
All right.
So let's check it out. Wow, look at these.
Charles Barkley.
Right on top. Oh, very cool. What year is that?
This one, I think it's a 90. Yeah, 1990. Two more that are like this. Oh, that's a patch of a game-worn jersey right
Yeah,
there.
it's a game-worn jersey patch. Yeah, right on. Who's that from?
Oh, it's numbered at 125. This is
36 of 125.
Brian Urschler, I think is how you say his name. Oh my gosh, he was a linebacker.
This is incredible, huh?
That's, yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Very cool. You want to take him inside and go check it out?
Hold on. I'm going to open a few more. Yeah, these are cool. Yeah,
Remember all those cards that Matthew sent you? The
$1
lumberjack
coin.
landlord? Oh, very cool.
Put that in there.
Hey, you remember those cards that Matthew sent you? The lumberjack landlord? He's watching right now.
All right.
Why don't you give him a personal thank you?
Thank you for the cards, Matthew.
Yeah, he was super stoked. Do you still have them framed up like you did?
No.
No?
They're not framed.
You still have them in the cases though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Well, let's cruise back up here. All right. Wallace in the house.
Yeah.
Yo, UE. What we got? All Nighter says, Hey Zofo, LBTR, Dominic. All right, let's see. Lumberjack says, Freddy, calling 11 on the dice. Right on. That is awesome. Woohoo. Gotta hit the like for Freddy in the live, you know? All right. Well, that's cool, man.
Yeah, I'll take them inside. And
what an awesome thing.
found a dollar coin in there.
Found that dollar coin. All right.
Yeah.
You super happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll have to get you to write a thank you. Very nice. Here, let me grab the camera. You gonna slip out?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Freddy, for sharing your new hobby and for hanging out with us for just a few minutes, opening up the mail call, which looked like it was for you anyway. So I think that was a perfect way.
Yeah.
All right, dude. See it. He was so stoked to get that package. Somehow, I think he just knew it was for him. And man, I thank you so much. It came from a regular viewer who is in the live stream quite a bit. I don't see them in here right now, but when they do, man, I hope you catch this video later on. If I see it, in another video, I might let you know that we got it. But that was very cool. That's made Freddy's night. I know it did. So, what do you think of Trump telling the banks to lend or forcing them to lend? How does that work? Like, how do you force somebody to lend? I mean, this is like, I think what a lot of times we have to understand that it's not just the banks are like just anything else or a business, right? They have to make money. They can have their ability to lend, but it's not like they are not a business. Right? Like sometimes, I mean, it's just like, I think people think, well, you can just, just make them do it and how do you make somebody do something? It's just like, you can't. So when you think, okay, it's a business that somebody has to operate in order to be profitable, right? So it's not just something they can just do, right? They have to be profitable at it. And they have to know what where their money is going, or at least the idea of what it is that the projects or the loan itself, if it's, let me see if I can get this right. So you got you got a couple of ways that somebody might want to loan money, right? You got the way that they would be like, hey, I'm going to loan you money so that you can buy a house. So there's an asset at the end of it, right? So then you know that if they screw up at some point, you have at least an asset that you can repossess on the other side of it. Then there's the idea that you can loan money so that the instrument of debt itself becomes the tool in which that they are trying to profit from as they create this debt and then take that particular loan and sell it. And that is the way that they are trying to lend money out there, or make some profit off of this whole financial system. So if you think about it in like those two different fashions, right? There's ways of making money off of lending money, and how it is that you're going to lend this money out there and how you're going to get, return of profit off of it, whether you're anticipating on getting reimbursed on getting repaid on the loan and the interest, or if you just plan on just selling that loan off to somebody else. So when you think about how it is that the bank is going to do this, well, they have on their end somebody who has to like say, hey man, I'm willing to buy that debt, right? Like somebody says, I like that instrument of debt that you have created there. I'm going to buy that. This is where most mortgages are actually created, is from mortgage lenders out there actually looking for people where the money can go or where they can send that debt to so that they can get the money to, or you can get the money essentially for the loan. But when you think about it in this fashion, how do you force people to do this? You can't, right? You have to be rewarded for doing it. And that's where most people I think they look at the government and say, well, they should just do this. Well, you can't. Like, even in the sense that the government is going to spend money on something, there's somebody on the other side who's saying, yeah, I want to be rewarded for it. And now what that means is that they're going to go into debt by issuing bonds. And then the bond investor is going to get that bond and say, hey, I'm going to be rewarded in the future for this. So there's always somebody on the backside of it who is saying, hey, I'm taking on the risk for giving you money. And now I don't know how you force people into doing that, but you just simply can't, and if you do, then you're probably going to end up with a lot of people who are not going to be very willing to participate in the system. And you'll have even less effort, coming from the financial system. All right. RMV $9.99. Thank you so much. Incentivized by force. Catch you after the live is over. We'll rewatch during laundry. Oh, there you go. Nice discipline, Susan. There it is. Yeah, it is. Great dad, great kid. Well, thank you, Deja Vu. I appreciate it. Yeah, he was like, I don't know how he knew, but he as soon as I told him, I said, yeah, I got a mail call video. I'm going to open it up. And he was like, mail call, I want to join in. And I'm like, are you sure? I mean, I don't, like, what are we going to talk about? I was like, and he was just like, I don't know, let's talk about pennies. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's talk about Gresham's Law then or something. So opening up that box and seeing a whole bunch of baseball cards in there, that was just right on, man. That was so cool. All right. Have you read the book called Soft War from Jason Lowery about Bitcoin? No, I haven't. Trump said there would be consequences if banks do not lend. I don't get that. Like, there's consequences if they're forced to lend. So, I mean, I think that's a credible threat. I really do. I don't think that's like a real thing. Like, I can see how they can restrict people from lending in particular ways, like the whole predatory lending kind of idea, whatever that means. But as far as like forcing people, like this, the way I kind of see that is the same way as like, remember when the FBI told Apple they had to crack their encrypted phones, and Apple's like, well, we don't have any way of doing that. Like, they didn't have it at the moment, right? I mean, eventually they would, but the initial, like, you have to do this or else. And they were like, what are you talking about? We don't know how to do it. Like, we don't even know if we can. And you're telling us we have to do it. It was just like, well, what if we can't? Are we in trouble if we can't perform? So this is really what I think is happening when you go, okay, now you have to lend your money out there. You have to lend it. You have to lend this money. And I'm thinking, okay, so who has to take on the risk? Because there's always a risk on the other side. There has to be, right? I mean, if there was no risk to it, then people could just go into irrational exuberance and no consequences would ever come from it. And we already know that from history that you can find people who have gone way too far out on debt and then couldn't pay the debt and then you crash and burn. So forcing to lend, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like none. I mean, I don't even know how that can happen. Unless the system was completely broken, and then, like, which a lot of people, I guess, would assume that it is. But in that sense, then it wouldn't be working. And right now it is working. And although a lot of people don't agree with the whole idea of what it is that the United States has done, especially going in deep into debt and all the other stuff that's going along with the government, I don't even want to get started into it all, but if you think about what it is that the government is attempting to do with the debt issuance, trying to get that out there to the world, is literally because the world is demanding that debt. And that's hard for a lot of people to believe, because they see so much de-dollarization talk and everybody getting out of the U.S. treasuries and taking on some other form of doing transactions. I don't think they take into consideration that when it came to severing the gold standard and going on to a completely fiat currency, what ended up happening across the globe is that the reserve currency of gold then switched to U.S. treasuries. And now if you want to hold as much money as you can, if you want to save, you got to save in something, and that something is U.S. treasuries, because that's the closest thing to gold that existed prior to the severing of the gold standard. And I mean, it's a sad thing to see and say, but there is no ending it. There's no bringing that to a slow conclusion or something of that nature. Either it crashes or it continues, but there is no transition. It doesn't slowly move away. And you will never find it in a position in which that it is in a competition equally with anything else. It doesn't work like that. Gresham's law will prevent that from happening, because the moment that you have a good currency versus a bad currency, then you're going to have the bad currency chasing out the good one. These two are not equal. They can't be equal. If they were, they'd be working symbiotically like stable coins are. See, if you look at it in that sense, then you're going to realize that Gresham's law doesn't allow for another currency to step up and say, hey, we're going to be on a trading platform as equal as the dollar, but in competition with it. Because one of them is good and one of them is bad. And the bad one is going to chase out the good one. And if you are a rising currency, you're not going to rise as a bad currency. Right? If you're a bad currency, are you going to start becoming badder than the bad currency that's out there? It doesn't make any sense. A good currency would take over a bad currency once the bad currency has completely collapsed. Otherwise, everybody's just going to hoard it away, much like Freddy right now is hoarding the copper pennies away. Pretty soon, there will be no more copper pennies in circulation at some point, as the copper value keeps continuing to rise, and those copper pennies turn from 2.5 cents to nickel, to a 5-cent piece. And you're going to find that a 50-cent roll is now $2.50. People are going to be starting to hoard those pennies away, very much like I did. I brought 4 pounds of them home today, And so when I think about how it is that the dollar is going to completely fail, it's not something that is going to easily happen. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, like a lot of people want to say is a Zimbabwe or a Weimar Republic kind of thing. This is a much different scenario that has taken place. And although that scenario could happen, and very well might look like it could happen when the Fed is just going off and crazy printing and all that other stuff, it is much easier to understand this on the world scale when you think about how much is out there when it comes to U.S. treasuries, and how every bank, every insurance, every country, every investment company, everybody has U.S. treasuries. They're all sitting on them. And to replace that treasuries with something else coming out of like the BRICS nations or anything else is not something that can be found. Like, where is it? Like, you're going to go to the BRICS nation and say, okay, hey, one of you got to go into so much incredible amount of debt and be promising to definitely pay that debt that you can compete with the U.S. treasuries. Yeah. Who is it? Nobody. Not even close. Gold wants to step up, hoard it away. Bitcoin, hoard it away. You can't do it. And so what's going to end up happening is that you're going to have the dollar continue to rise as far as the dominance in doing world trade, right? Even though a lot of people are saying, dude, you're missing it. It's all happening all over. There's nobody else who can do this. Until the dollar completely fails, until the country fails, right? And we can know that, like, there's issues coming up, like the Federal Reserve giving that warning that the United States government is on an unsustainable debt path. That's serious stuff, right? They're not saying that they're on unsustainable debt yet, right? They're on an unsustainable debt path, meaning if they continue down this road, it's going to create a situation that they will not be able to get out of. And so, as most of us are already come to the conclusion that they can't get out of this, the Federal Reserve has some sort of idea or plan or concept buried deep down inside there that they just don't talk about, that says that they can continue on with the system. And now you hear all this stuff about stable coins, and you think about what it is that when Gresham's law kicks in, how is it that you create another currency that works alongside the dollar? You have to have it being a symbiotic relationship. They have to be trading the same. Very much like the world was using US dollars, because if you had a certain amount of dollars, you could get a fixed amount of gold. And everybody knew it. And since everybody knew that that was going to be the case, they had no problems using the US dollar, using it in place of gold. And they had no idea that they were doing anything different other than a gold transaction, because they assumed what they had was gold. Well, now when you're using stable coins and you have no idea what it is that you're using, and you assume that they're the same as the dollars, the same story again. Only this time, they're getting the dollars out and they're putting the stable coin in. Who's to say what that stable coin is backed by? You know, the Federal Reserve has already talked about how it is that they are not going, or I wouldn't say not going to. It is not their job to be the buyer of foreign assets in order to put on the balance sheet to expand the debt issuance, to expand the dollar issuance, the liabilities that they have. They've said that this isn't their deal. But now, if they can have a stable coin out there that essentially is being backed by the dollar, now who's to say that that stable coin will always be backed by the dollar? Once everybody is using it, what do you need to back that stable coin with? It could be U.S. treasuries. Maybe it's the short-term treasury debt or treasury issuance or debt issuance of a foreign nation. Who knows what these stable coins could be backed by? But the Federal Reserve is talking about them, and they're talking about the U.S. government being on an unsustainable debt path. So when I think about what Gresham's law is going to say about what it is that the next currency is going to look like, to me, it's not going to come from a competition. It can't. All right? Bad currencies can't rise, and good currencies will get hoarded away. The bad currency has to fail. Thayer's law will kick in after that. And that's where the good currency can actually take over. But until the dollar completely fails, the only way you're going to see another currency coming in is through a symbiotic relationship, one that trades 1-to-1 or equally, or on a fixed amount. Something that people will look at and say, okay, whatever, 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. They don't care. That's what the next currency is going to look like. Yeah. All right, let's check out this super chat. Here we go. Grand Roofing Incorporated. Thank you so much for the $5. They will debase the nickels. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I don't even. All the rest of the coins out there, maybe nickels on a lesser extent, but all the rest of the coins might as well go right back into circulation. Pennies, copper pennies should be hoarded away. And every day, like, at work, I open up a till all the time, and I can see the color of the pennies in there. I can see those bright, shiny new zinc ones, and I can tell the old patinaed out old copper ones. And so I pull out all them old copper ones every day. I might pull out 5, I might pull out 20, but I pull them out every day. And today I brought them home, and I had like 4 pounds of them. And now Freddy's going through them all, looking for the wheat pennies and looking for the the older dates, or whatever it is, filling up books. He's got a couple of those I forget what they call, the blue books that you put all the sort the pennies into by year. All right, where's Kirk to answer? What is that? Hello Brush? I don't know, I can't read the name. I was the one that built the copper penny sorter. Oh yeah, that's right. Grand Roof Incorporated. And you were the one who donated a bunch of memberships out there too, man. So thank you so much for all that support for the channel. That's right. Grand Roofing Incorporated. He has a very cool penny sorting machine that he had built, and it was really high tech too. If I remember right, it had like it was way advanced in my opinion. Like, to me, like I would build something that falls off of weights, or something, and like, but his is all like, if I remember right, it actually had like little like actuators that like would shoot the pennies out or something. I can't remember exactly. I have to go back and watch the video, but it was a cool video. I remember that. It was ugly, but beautiful. Yeah, dude, it was a cool video. All right. Pigeon Post, thank you so much for the 10 Canadian dollars. With the amount of capital held up in private equity, do you think they will buy up struggling industries and therefore control the supply, demand, export, import, trade policy in those industries? Are you talking about here in the United States? The private equity? Okay, well, I mean, I think that's a neat thing to think about. I don't know if that's necessarily like an actual plan, because what I find mostly from private equity is that they go in to failing places where they can sell off the assets and make a profit before, like, shutting down the rest of the company, right? The rest of the business. And so, not always is that the case. I mean, I guess a lot of times, like, they'll go in and just like, just cut it back to like the absolute bare bone minimums, I've seen that kind of go into place too. And anyway, the idea that they would go in to control the supply of things, I don't know. That seems like, I mean, anytime I ever hear about going in to control the supply, control like the amount of anything or whatever, this is very like communistic, socialistic sort of concepts and thoughts, right? To go in there and control how many businesses can be of a certain style, or how many factories of a certain style, so they don't overproduce, or controlling what it is that can go where or how or whatever, like massive control of the flow of things. To me, when you see that sort of like thought or concept, you have to think, why are they doing that? Why? I mean, they're doing it to prevent what? An underlying economic force that is happening, right? They're trying to prevent that of the people from becoming the industrious one to get into savings that would eventually lead them into the rising in the standard of living, and eventually the fall into luxuries. When you see those people who are out there going, man, we need to take control over this. We need to make sure that it doesn't happen, or that it does happen in a particular way. And so when you see things like, not allowing to, like when you don't allow failure, and then when you don't allow success, then you know that they're trying to control the underlying economic force. Because both of those things are going to happen, is failure and success. But when you have too big to fail, and then you have, oh, well, they should be forced to lend. This is like, how do you do this, right? If you are finding a government that can actually succeed in doing these things, what they are doing is they are forcing the things that would normally be seen as a free market understanding of trade, right? That's like where we rise and fall on our own merits. But if you don't have that going on and you have government that's interfering with all that, then you know that you got like communistic, socialistic aspects that are trying to prevent the underlying economic forces from going through the cycles that are going to naturally occur. And people will beg for it. They'll say it's a good thing. And, whether it is or isn't, I mean, it might, you might have some government rule that sticks it out there for a little while that says, no, man, we're going to do all kinds of things to bring manufacturing and keep manufacturing here. And then yet I have heard this since I was a little kid, right? I mean, this is exactly what I've heard since I was a little kid. They are sending manufacturing jobs overseas. Yeah, I wonder why. Because it's an underlying economic force that is being described inside of Cantillon's essay and can be just obviously looked at across the globe. I mean, you can even see it happening in China today as manufacturers are leaving China and moving off to more efficient places to operate from, like Mexico, Vietnam, Malaysia, wherever. And a lot of people say, well, this is done by force because of the tariffs or whatever. No, this was happening anyway. Like, this is happening anyway. It may not be the same picture if it wasn't for tariffs and stuff like that. Putz, welcome everyone. Hey, bro, thanks for the package. I don't know if you caught that earlier. Go back and watch the video from the beginning. All right, thanks for the insight, Yui. Yeah, Pigeon Post, man, you bet. I mean, this is the thing, like, I got to thinking about this the other day, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit ago, not in this stream, but maybe earlier today, is that so many people have brought up certain ideas that says, oh man, well, you haven't thought of this or you haven't thought of that. And so I do think about these things. And I end up like really kind of going to a certain like, end result when I think about a lot of stuff, especially when you take it from an objective point of view, right? A lot of times you will find a certain point that is brought up. Like, look at all the countries that are dumping U.S. treasuries. You hear this, oh, it's because of the BRICS, the idea of the BRICS and all this other. Okay, so you take this on and it's just like, wow, that's like, it's evident. Yeah, there's a lot of that's happening there. And you can see that they're building up the systems. They're getting it all there, all these other things. And it's just like, okay, they're definitely doing all the stuff. Okay. Now, to what scale is that it actually means something to impact against what the dollar is doing? It's very small. It's like insignificant, right? So it's like, okay, so you got this insignificant concept that is building. So it could, blow. So I think, okay, well, how would that happen, right? How does that work other than, the idea is that you have a failing dollar, which does fail and people don't want to use it and all this other stuff. Okay, so we think, okay, that happens, could happen. Is that happening? No, not really, right? And as people want to say that it is, it really isn't. This insignificant thing is rising, very small. Okay, so there is those things to be concerned about. But is it something that you're going to be so concerned about that you say, okay, I have to position myself in accordance to that growing up and being the dominant thing? When it's this big, right? Of course not. Now we look at it for what the reality says, and these BRICS nations and all that, they're using dollars just the same, right? Not all of them are using them just the same, but they're using them just the same. I mean, earlier today, we were talking about how China's taken out like $40 billion worth of U.S. dollar-denominated debt. I mean, this is in U.S. dollars. Doesn't have anything to do with us. At all. Not our banks, not our government, nothing. And what I find funny about it is that I just kind of lose it. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to ramble. What I find funny is that somebody says, well, they don't have to pay back in U.S. dollars. And I'm like, well, who in the hell wouldn't want to be paid back in U.S. dollars? And they say, well, they can just pay back in any currency they want. And I'm like, no, they can't. I mean, if I bought a bond that was due in U.S. dollars, I would expect it to pay back in U.S. dollars. If I bought it in yuan, I would expect it to pay back in yuan. Whatever the contract says, that's what I expect. And if you say, no, I can't, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay you back in dollars, I'm going to pay you back in something else, that's a default. No, you defaulted on the bond. Right? Now the bond is worthless. And all the debt that you want to take out from now on, that's worthless too. And ain't nobody going to lend you any money because you didn't pay back what you promised to pay. Because these bonds aren't this something that like, a government can just say like, ah, screw it, I don't want to pay it. Right? They can't do that. If they started doing that, then nobody would lend them any money. Everybody would be like, screw you, you're stuck on your own. You better be one hell of a manufacturer, producer, and saver because you're not going to get any debt. And no nation wants to operate in that fashion. So no, they're not going to just pay back in some other currency unless the creditor was like, okay, I will be paid back in some other currency, unless they truly accepted that, right? But most, if you have a bond that is due in dollars, you're going to want to be paid back in dollars. May I get a membership? Yeah, gifted memberships are at random, and one must make sure in the settings that they are open to gifted memberships. That is so cool. You guys are so awesome with those membership gifts. I mean, I'm gonna get back into some member-only videos. Like I like doing the speeches just because I think those are really important to understanding what's going on right now. And there hasn't really been a whole lot of speeches that have been given since the end of last month. So I'm sure that there will be some coming up soon. And there's going to be, and this is going to be big once it happens, there's going to be an adjustment to to like basically that 5-year strategy. I don't have my computer in front of me, so I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's the long-term outlook and monetary policy strategies or something that they have. You guys heard me quote from it all the time. So that's going to change soon. And I haven't heard word on when that's supposed to take place. It was supposed to happen here at the end of the year. So we got like, another 6 weeks or so before this thing is really supposed to be rewritten and communicated out there to the public. And in that last one that they communicated within it that monetary policy would seek to achieve inflation that was moderately above 2%. I'm curious if that wording is going to change. And, that's one thing that I'm looking forward to and talking about in a members only video once it happens, but it hasn't happened yet. All right, man, I just updated that setting. Wayne says, I can cut with a torch like one can't believe. 20 years in the steel mill, I developed some skill, but it's cold out here. Plus it's cold out here? I don't know. All right. Just cruising up here and just taking a look at some of these. Let's see. All-nighter, did you watch? Oh, there we go. Did you watch Simon's last live, especially where he talks about how digital currencies will be brought in through essentially a tax on cash, depositing, and payments? Yeah, and I mean, well, I should do another video on that because I think it's going to be really important. If you want to go back and watch the original video I did, I think if you search through my videos, and I think if you look for the, I think cashless society would find it. It's one of the earliest videos I had done, like within the first year, I think. But I had come across this IMF blog article or whatever. And so, I mean, we're talking like going on 6-7 years ago. And it talked about central bank digital currencies. And I was convinced after that day. I'm like, oh man, this is going to happen. They are going to implement this thing. So this isn't like my idea. This is like the IMF's idea, the International Monetary Fund, saying, hey, if you want to implement an e-currency is what they were referring to it as. Of course, now we call it digital currencies, but at the time they were calling it an e-currency. And if they could deploy this e-currency out there, then they could create a situation in which that they could pull the cash out of the system. And so if you're pulling cash out of the system, you're going to lock people into the system. And once you're locked into the system, they got it. Now they can go into negative interest rates. They can control the flow of money. They can, direct what it is you can and cannot buy, turn your wallet off, make you disappear, all that kind of thing. I mean, it's like, it's like all the scary stuff that is possible out there. Now, my level of concern about it is pretty low, considering that if they were to start doing something like that, people wouldn't use it. Like, people want to trust the money that they are using. They want to feel like it's as good as, well, as good as gold, whatever that's supposed to mean, but that it's going to do what they say it's going to do. And if using the money gets you in trouble, or if using the money gets you punished, then you're most likely going to try and use something else. Now, we are experiencing that with with like even the sanctions and stuff like that, right? But it doesn't mean that they can't do it, right? And once you are in a system as big as that, like, what else are you going to use? Like, if you want to go to the store and the store will not accept anything else except for the central bank digital currencies, or or a stable coin of some sort, or some kind of tax trace and watched over and dealt with kind of currency, then what are you going to do? You're going to have to, like, beg somebody else to go buy it for you. And they may have to explain why it is that they're buying that much, or buying it for who or why or whatever. And if you have to start explaining things like that, it's going to become very difficult to operate in a free-flowing economy. It's not like people are going to go out there and just going to want to start businesses and become inventive and be industrious and do all that other stuff, right? You can't make people go work. I mean, you can try, but it doesn't work out very well. I mean, people who choose to work because they feel that they can be profitable and successful and, you know, end up living a free and independent life because of it, those are the people who are going to be out there making the best of this world. But if you're sitting in a position and it says, like, no, man, you can't be that profitable, or no, you can't do this, or no, you can't do that, then most people are going to sit back and just say, hey, man, if that's the way you're going to do it, then why am I going to try? Okay? Why should I go out there and try and make the best inventions and awesome ideas and skills and services out there if you're just going to punish me for doing it? So, no. I mean, that's why living in a free market, or the idea of a free nation, is the best one to live in, because it gives you the ability to just be the free thinker and just go out there and just do it. But if you feel that if you go out there and do it and you're going to get slapped for it, then why would you try? Let's see. But people will want the system. Cash debts could be completely wiped out. Student loans gone as incentive to switch. Extreme discounts for paying in the new currency. Well, no. Like, I don't get that. Like, I mean, how does you just wipe it out? Somebody owns that debt, right? That's owed to somebody. And I don't, and that's where I think a lot of people misunderstand it. Like, that's an asset. Those student loans are an asset to the government, right? They're student loan asset-backed securities. They're called slabs. And those are assets to the U.S. government. And now, if you just take those and you just wipe them off and just say, like, oh, hey, man, never mind, right? You don't need to pay us back on any of those things. Those are no longer our assets. They just, like, piss on that. That would throw the balance sheet of the United States government so out of whack that it would just, like, nobody would lend us any money, because we would have a far higher liability to our assets than you could possibly be. I mean, I think the slabs make up 50% or better of the financial portion of the U.S. government's asset off the balance sheets. Like, the financial portion, meaning like all the debts that they own out there that are their assets. So, like, when you think about it, a bond is your asset. So if they hold a bond that is a student loan backed bond, that is their asset. That's the government's asset. And that sits on their balance sheet. And they have their liabilities out there, which is all the bonds that they have issued out. Right? So now, if you take their assets and you just all of a sudden just take a huge portion of it and you just wipe it off, and all of a sudden their credit rating goes to shit, like, they're like gone. Like, nobody's going to lend them money. Nobody, like, the whole thing just completely falls apart. And so it's not like something that can just happen. So how does that work? You got to tax somebody, or you got to tell somebody, hey, you're going to pay for this, but you're not going to get rewarded for it, right? Like, how does that work? How do you do that? It's like making this again. It's like Trump saying, "Hey, lend them money." Like, how you can't do that, you know? You got to have a way to be able to relieve that debt, that asset that somebody is owed. It's owed to the United States government. It's owed to every taxpayer. If you wipe out the assets, you're going to have to tax all that much more in order to pay off the debts because the asset that's sitting on the balance sheet is now gone. Right? Again, it's like taking the gold off and throwing it away. It's not gold. I mean, they're not paying it anyway, but it's still on there, forcing the people to pay. I mean, there's some of them are paying. I guess they're going to have to pay at some point. No, BTC, grandfather system. That's why the NSA has active patents around it. All right, too many cashless societies, UE videos to share. Just type that in the search bar and you will see about a dozen videos. Yeah, and I forget, it's like, what do I want to say? Like, it was like, I forget, in like cashless society, in order to have it, I don't know. I can't remember what the title of it was. There's so many videos. I don't even know how many videos I put out now. Just insane. So guys, I don't know. We've been out here, what, 45 minutes? Kind of a boring video. We were coming out just to do the mail call thing. Got $23.21 in super chats because you guys are very supportive. 60 likes with 67 people watching. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know. Do you guys want to hang out any longer? I got to go inside at some point and eat dinner. I haven't done that yet. Thanks. I'll search more and come back with a better source and information. All right. Along with scripture. Yeah, some people really like to get into the scripture talk and stuff, which I get it. You know, I get it because once you give yourself up to a higher power or realize in life that you are sometimes have to understand that you're not in control, right? You're not the one who is in control of things that are out there because control is an illusion anyway. Like nobody has control. And so once you understand that you can just be, you can be it, just be it, just be in the moment. There's nothing from the past that is existing, right? Because everything in the past is a memory that isn't what you think it is. Every time you think of a memory, it's different from what it is that really happened or the way that it really existed. You think about it differently every single time. So the past doesn't really exist. It's just a memory that isn't really real because it's not the right memory. The future doesn't exist because, again, like, you know, uh, nothing is set in stone and you can't, predict the future. So now is it. This is it. This is the only moment. And so when you're in this moment, just live it to the way that you want to live. And when you start doing that, you're going to find that everything around you starts coming in line with the way that you are living and feeling. And so if you are and again, like I am not religious, I don't, spread the whole religious concepts or thoughts or anything else like that. But if you just think of the idea, the guy who lives in the idea of I am a religious person who is very faithful to what it is that I believe. I've given myself up to this higher power. And I believe that if I live this life, that I am going to have a good outcome from it. And you find that generally those people generally live a fairly decent life. Even if they're not making a bunch of money or whatever, they're very happy with who it is that they are. And they find that the things that they want in their life are just seemingly there, right? They don't like maybe necessarily like have a bunch or can do a bunch, but they don't really necessarily like want for a whole lot of things when it comes to what it is that they truly need in their life. These things seem to be there for them. And when you think about it in this fashion, it doesn't really matter if you are following this or that religion or anything else like that. It's really the inner feeling that you have about what it is that you are thinking about. And if it happens to be this particular religion that you are thinking about, usually what you are feeling from that is that I am doing the right thing, right? Right now, I'm doing the right thing. And that's really what it is. After that, everything else just starts lining up for it. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like the universal powers. Now, whether you want to call that God, or if you want to say that it's just these magnetic energies that you admit, that come out of you, that other people are then attracted to or repelled by, depending on how it is that you're feeling and dealing with it, you're going to realize that the same thing happens when you start studying into what it is that you find as that way of life that is written down in this, Holy Spirit, or the, whatever happens to be the religion of choice you've chosen. Simon, you think that it's a mindset when it's not. Everything's a mindset. Okay. Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, I shouldn't give it, because the meaning that you give it is the meaning that you give it, right? Don't you think that it's crazy how economics is more human psychology than anything else? No, I don't think that's crazy. In fact, I find that economics is the mechanical form of consciousness. Like, when I think about like how it is that a 2x4 makes it to my yard, when I watch how my buddies get up every morning to go to work, driving the trucks and driving the equipment that brings those logs down to the mill, and I think about all the effort it takes and how many people are needing to simultaneously correspond with each other in order to make certain things happen. Like, each and every single one of us has pretty much touched something in our lives that has now made it to everybody else in our life. Like, it's weird to think, that whole idea of like, what, 6 degrees away from Kevin Bacon or whatever that thing is. I can't even remember. Like, anyway, I think about some of the things that I have achieved and some of the things that the people that I have met and all this other stuff. And I didn't even really like try to make this happen. It just, sort of existed. It just kind of came into existence in itself. And now I think, man, how did I get here? It was like, it wasn't just me who did it. There was all these people who were involved with it. I mean, all the way down to All Nighter Hider and my buddy Forrest, who brought me a letter from All Nighter Hider, because these guys fish together up in Alaska. And since then, like, I've been buddies with All Nighter, and how it is that All Nighter has helped me out when it comes to, going to these conferences. Like, he's like my right-hand man there. So, like, how these things line up, like, we're all connected. And when you think about when every time you spend money, how it is that money is like sending out that ripple out there into the world, where this person's purchase has now created a situation in which the guy who's standing behind the counter, whose life is now affected by it, and everything that's affected that he's doing, right, by this purchase, he's able to profit in his life. Right? All the drivers who are involved with it, all the manufacturers, all the stuff, like, you think about the rippling effect that happens from just a single purchase. It's amazing that every single one of us are carrying some sort of connection and energy towards everybody else, and you can find it right there in the mechanical form doing commerce. Right? And it's, just think about it. Where did, like, these glasses, how many people touched it? What it took for these glasses to actually arrive all the way down to right here in my hand. The vehicle that I'm sitting in, all of it. Imagine that multiplied by the trillions. All right, be kind, helpful, and grateful. It's a blessing to be a blessing. Yeah, Hell Nighter. I mean, yeah, you're a true bro, man. All right. Well, with 67 people watching, I don't know, how late do we want to hang out for? What time is it? I got to go inside. What is it? It's like 6:30. All right, Matt, let's see, what do if you had $300,000 in your bank account right now? If I had $300,000 in my bank account right now, I don't know, man. Like, right now, I don't know if, I don't think about like having that much money. Like, I really don't. Like, that money is going to come eventually, and I'm just not stressed about it. It's just going to, whatever. I mean, I'm going to figure out something out here in life that I'm going to have that's going to get me into like that sort of level of wealth. What I'm going through as far as my life right now is I really want to raise my family, right? I really want to raise my family. I want to be able to, do the things that I'm kind of doing right now. With $300,000, like if if I was in a different situation than I am right now, I would do all kinds of stuff. But right now, I can't imagine anything else I would do other than maybe just invest it into the things that I'm investing in anyway. Maybe I would, you know, start the idea of, creating that, like, maybe speaking tours on like the summertime so I could take the family with me, kind of get some practice at doing some of those kind of things. But like those are the things that I think about. I don't really think about like how to make money. Money just flows in any way. Like, you just kind of put out the intention for it, minus the importance, offer the ability to, have money flow towards you. And if it flows in a significant fashion at times, just be grateful for it. And at times when it doesn't, be prepared for, those times, I guess. I just don't think about it in any other fashion. There was a time I used to think about money in a very different way. Like, there was a time I would have told you exactly what I would have done with $300,000. I would have busted it, right? I mean, I would have done exactly that. And I didn't have any money at the time, but I knew exactly what I would have done with $300,000. Now, like, to me, it's like I already feel like I have $300,000 or something. I don't think I would do anything different than what I'm doing. And what I have going on in my life is I have to figure out how it is that I spread the message that I want to spread out there, which is understanding this economic forces in a way that is better understanding for how it is that you are supposed to conduct yourself. That's the message that I want to send out there. And I know that by getting that message out there to the people, I'm going to get rewarded for it. How I do it is still, I'm figuring that out. Like, I was doing it here on YouTube, but YouTube, I have to say, is not the only place in the world that I could be doing this. It's the place that I seem to be at. I like doing it. I love being here every day doing this kind of thing. But I know that this is a much better, much bigger world out there than just being on YouTube and trying to get the information here. There's a billion people out there who could be hearing this. Have you ever thought about buying lumber futures? No. I don't buy, no, because the idea of buying lumber futures is like, well, originally when I was first looking into understanding all the futures market and all that other stuff, lumber future contracts were 110,000 board feet. That's like a lot, I mean, these are huge contracts. And generally, like, this is not something that you would buy unless you're like, a major builder or broker or retail outfit or something of that nature. Like, buying futures, this is something that the average person does. Like, taking delivery of 110,000 board feet of lumber is a lot of lumber, right? So I mean, I don't know about buying futures and understanding the trading of futures, especially if you get caught in some way where you can't unload them or don't know what to do with it or something like that nature. ETFs, there's some ETFs out there that, some of them are actually leveraged up pretty good. And I've given those suggestions out there to people at the time as something for them to research, but I don't like giving out those kind of like financial advice, or investment advice. That's not what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to understand why these economic forces are causing certain things within the economy to occur. And when I think about some of these laws, like Gresham's law or Cantillon effect or whatever, I think that's probably the better position to take as far as the view goes, as opposed to how do I make money. To me, it's like, how do I provide the best service, the best skills, whatever, to be attractive to money. That's really what it comes down to. Be attractive to money. If you chase money, then money will run. But if you're in a position in which that says, hey, I got a good skill, I got a good concept, I got a good lesson, I got a good product, I got something of this nature, then generally what you are doing is you are being attractive to money. Now, you do have to put it out there that says, hey, I got this thing for sale, I got the skill, I got this opportunity that, you might want to take advantage of. all these things are part of it, but it's just, you know, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think originally when I got into economics, I wanted to figure out how it was that I was going to make a bunch of money. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for when they study economics. They're looking for how is it that I can use this to make a bunch of money. And to me, I think about that in I have never really made money like I've never really made that much money when I was trying to do it, right? Like it was one thing when I was working construction and I was working like a labor position for a really crappy outfit, right? And I wasn't getting paid at all, right? But I was just like, whatever. I mean, I needed the job and it was close to work or whatever. So I kept working there. And the foreman of the job, who was, like a real pain in the ass, I ended up learning a lot, like a whole lot from this dude, working with him for like 3 months. And I already thought I kind of knew a little bit about construction, but after working with this guy, I mean, I really knew a lot about construction. It kind of like opened up the floodgates in a way. Right? And the next job that I ended up going to, which I was so happy to leave. I was almost kicked off of this job site because I was just like I just had it and the attitudes were just not jiving or whatever. And so when I found that there was another opportunity and it was actually a fairly decent drive away, like it was like an hour away where this particular job I was working at was like like 5 minutes or something. So I had this long commute that I had to go to get to this thing, but I didn't care because I didn't want to work for these guys anymore or this particular outfit. I mean, the guys were cool on it. Anyway, so I go to this other job, and it turns out, man, this other job leads into me being a foreman of that job. Like I had taken like the attitude and skills or whatever from this other guy who was kind of a pain in the ass, who taught me an insane amount. I took that with me to this next job and immediately like excelled up to like a foreman position. I was just like, wow, right? I knew a lot about building materials because I had already been working at lumber supply for a long time, and then I had all these added skills that, came into understanding production framing and putting things together. Next thing I knew, I was like in a position in which that I wasn't really swinging hammers, but I was telling people more like, "Hey, go work on this thing," and making sure that they had the material and everything on, to continue working. And I thought to myself, man, that was cool. I didn't try. Like I just like I wasn't trying to make more money. I wasn't trying to get into position. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. It just naturally occurred. Right. And so I always think about that now that I understand a little bit more about how the power of manifesting realities come into your existence is literally by imagining what it would be like to be there. And then start living your life as if it's that way. See, like even the idea of like, what would you do with $300,000? Well, I would sit there and have to imagine myself having $300,000. I already kind of imagine myself having $300,000, and this is exactly what I would be doing. Like I already imagine myself having $1 million. Like to me, I already have all the money. I don't even think about having. It's like it's already there. Even though I have a limited bank account and I have, bills and everything else that I have to pay, I don't have all the money in the world, but in my mind, I kind of do. Like I pay my bills on time. That's it, man. I am succeeding very much. Now, again, like how do you get out of that mindset and into, no, man, I need to make $1 million in the next couple of years? Why would I want to do that? Like, do I want to take the time away from my family? Do I want to do like, the hard work that it would take to make that kind of money in such a short amount of time? Or would it be better just to kind of casually go through life, raise my family the way I think is most appropriate, continue to operate like what I am doing, saving, building up a portfolio, doing the family thing, and then at the end of it, go and try and do something like you make $1 million in a couple of years. You know, like what is it that you want out of life? After you like got enough to cover what it is that you are living, like what is it that you're doing? All right, you're paying your bills, you're saving, you got a little bit to maybe travel around or whatever. What is it that you're looking for? I mean, are you looking for more travel? Are you looking for fancier cars? Are you looking for a better life? Are you looking for what is it you're looking for? Because to me, I don't know what I would be looking for by doing that. Like, I mean, to say that I did it, I mean, I do that sometimes. Like, I mean, getting on stage and speaking in front of people, like that was not something that I had in my head. It would be cool to try that out, like to do that someday, to be able to get up on stage and speak in front of people and share my thoughts and ideas. I had no idea that it was actually going to occur. And I had no idea that it was offered up to me, I wasn't looking for it. In fact, I've never looked for any speaking engagements that I've ever been on. They have always been offered to me because I don't know how to ask for a speaking engagement. Like I wouldn't even know what that would feel like to go out there and say, "Hey, I would really like to speak at your next event." Like I don't know what that would feel like, to in order to do that. I mean, I think that's probably something I should probably try and do just to get out of my comfort zone and go and ask somebody, "Hey man, I would love to speak at your event," or whatever. But that's not the way I've ever done it. It's always been somebody else who has offered it up to me saying, "Hey, I would love for you to come and, give an hour share or whatever at my event." And a lot of times when it's happened, I'm thinking, "Me? You want me to speak it?" You're like, "Really? Oh my gosh, this is exactly the way I feel every time." Like even Zuber offering it up to me the other, last month. I was like, I'm just like super excited about it. It was just like right on. I get to go speak at Zuber's event here in February, the middle of February. You know, the Rebel Capitalist, I was offered that 2 weeks before the event, like 2 or 3 weeks before the event. George asked me, I think he had somebody back out or something, and he was just like, "Hey man, you want to speak at the event?" And I was just like, "Hell yeah, man, I will take that opportunity," right? So it was like, speaking at the Rebel Capitalist this last time, that one like came like almost out of nowhere. I had no idea that was going to take place. So again, this is like like I believe that I believe that I do speaking engagements. I'm a public speaker. I can do it. I really like I have no idea what I'm doing up there, but I don't care. Like I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna give it hell. I'm gonna do the best I can. I'm gonna hopefully get it out there in a way that I think is like entertaining and fun and educational or whatever it is that I'm trying to get done. I just feel that I can do that. Like I'm that person now, and I don't think about it any other way. Like I don't think about how to do it or anything else like that. I don't think about the how. I just think about the is. Just the is. Trying to understand the how is where like most people end up really screwing it up because they don't trust. They don't trust the process, right? Like by even saying, "How do I do it? How do I make this done?" People ask me, "How do I start a YouTube channel?" And my answer is, you start it. You just start making videos. The first video sucks. You're not going to like it. Don't worry about it. There are some things you are going to like. You're going to not do the things that you don't like, and just keep making videos until you're good at making videos. But most people are like, "No, I need this. How do I get this? How do I do that? How do I?" And it's just like, you don't need to know how. You don't need to know how. How will come when will actually come to you as you are doing it, because this is the process. This is the way you learn. Right? You might start a YouTube channel, start going through it, realize, man, this YouTube channel sucks, drop it, start a different YouTube channel that does very well. I started a bunch of YouTube channels before this one took off. And so it's not like it's hard to do it. It's hard to understand trusting the process. That's hard to do. Because you have to trust the process and says that, hey, I'm going to be a YouTuber. I start today. Tomorrow I put out another video. After that I put out another video. And I'm going to think about what it is that a YouTuber would be doing in order to put out the next video. I got to think of the next topic. I got to think of the next way I'm going to edit. I'm going to think about the next storyline. I'm going to think about the next whatever. And you keep putting out these videos, and pretty soon you're going to realize, man, I am good at making YouTube videos. I'm a YouTuber. Like me, I think I need to go into being a writer. I write some stuff. I write these articles down. I write, some different concepts. It's all this hodgepodge stuff because I'm not a writer, right? I don't know anything about writing, but I'm learning about typing, right? Type out words, type out your thoughts, type. And I'm starting to type a lot more. And now I'm noticing that the things I'm writing are getting longer and longer and longer, where before I would just write out a couple of paragraphs. Now I'm writing out like an entire page, or maybe even a page and a half, 2 pages. And I'm like, oh, I'm becoming a writer, right? I was like, ah, look at me go, right? Now the things that I'm writing, I'm like, man, I don't like what I'm writing. But some of the stuff that I am writing, I do like. And I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty good. And I was just like, oh, yeah, right. Because you got to do this every day. You got to do it every single day. And if you don't know anything about writing, it's going to be a long road before you're going to be able to get down the road to be a writer. But the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Pretty soon, I'll be a writer, right? And this is, again, it's like you got to start by putting words onto the computer, right? Let's start typing words. And that's for anything out there. So if you want if you want $3 million, just start living life, not living life like as if you had $3 million where you go out there and you bust ass, or you like bust ass. No, you bust ass and make it happen. What you do is, instead of busting ass, you're out there like just spending your money on luxuries and stuff like that as if you imagined you had $3 million and you're spending like you have $3 million. That's not what I'm talking about. Like the feeling of having $3 million, what would that really feel like to you? Is it really moving into luxuries and having like fancy cars and all kinds of stuff? Is that the feeling of having $3 million? Or would $3 million means that I don't have to stress about making my bills or having, this particular debt in mind anymore. I won't have that on my plate. I'll have, to me, having $3 million probably means that I have that business in operation. So I can imagine myself like doing really well at my side hustle that I've started that's actually going to get me there. You think about the things that you would feel like if you were there, you know? Because most people think about, oh man, I would be doing this if I had $3 million, and it's usually like some luxurious experience or fancy toys or all this other stuff. And I think, okay, so when people say that, I say, okay, after you got all that, then what? Like you got the fancy car, you got all that stuff, right? Now, how would you feel if once you've had $3 million, you got all that stuff? Now, what do you feel like? Right? Is that like that's the feeling? Once you have that feeling and you hold on to that feeling, eventually all the rest of the stuff, like if you just imagine yourself driving that car, your subconscious will then start saying, hey, if you're going to drive that car, you're going to need to start doing business. You're going to need to get out there and make a video. You're going to have to get out there and start writing things down. If you want to have that car, you're going to have to start going out there and performing and chasing the excellence that is out there in the world, being good and awesome and serviceable and providing and stuff like that and helpful to the world. You're going to find that that is the exact energy that once you're in it, it just naturally flows back to you. It's like doing good at work. Okay. So that's a good way to think about it is like, I don't know how many people I work sales, right? So working sales is a really good way of explaining this, because there's a lot of people who will only work as hard as they need to, right? Like they will just process the order. They'll do whatever. They're not polite, or maybe they're just not super friendly or something of that nature. Okay. Whatever, they just get through the process, and it may not even be like that terrible of an experience for the customer, but it's just like, another transaction and nobody cares about anything, right? So when I see that, I think, okay, well, I'm going to step it up just a little bit. I'm going to go, the extra mile, right? Take in that little bit of effort to be like engaging in a way that says, hey, I see that you have something else here on the table that you might like. I see what you're buying here on the table. You got a bunch of drywall screws. I see you got some mud and tape. I said, do you have new razor blades? Maybe you need some razor blades to cut that drywall up with. Hey, great idea. Add-on sales. Start being helpful and useful to the outcome, right? And when the process doesn't end with the end of the sale, right? It's like we got to go until the very end here, right? So packaging it all up and carrying it out to their car and putting it in the back seat and telling them thank you for shopping with us, hope to see you again soon, and going back in there leaves the experience not only with the customer but then everything else around you at a higher level that then starts having opportunities coming to you. You start pretty soon, you got like other contractors who witness this happening coming up and saying, hey man, I would love for you to be a project manager. I see how you handle things so well, and I think that you could direct my crew in a way that would be so much, so much more efficient for me. Like this is the type of things that have actually happened to me. Right? All because they witnessed me helping another customer. And now these other people who are answering the phone, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's $5. Click, And I'm like, hey, good morning, going on, City Limb, what do you got going on? Yeah, sure. You got a deck that's being built? Sure, awesome. Where's that deck at? It was just like start talking to him about the project, start asking him a few things, and then next thing you know, you're building up a rapport and friendly. I'm not just giving them a price, I'm becoming their friend. Right? No, it's freedom from my family. Uh, did I get another super chat that I missed? Here we go. Grand Roof Incorporated. Thank you for the $20, man. Very cool of you. All right. When you quit chasing the money, you focus on solving people's problems, the money will come in the mindset. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. You are helping people, Simon. Well, thank you. Thank you, Grand Roofing Incorporated, man. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the way you support the channel like you do. I mean, I thank you, man. It's like, I don't know what it was that I was thinking in my life that got me to the level that I had, right? Like, but I got to a point in my life where I just didn't care about anything. Like, I was a nice guy. Like, I was friendly. I never treated anybody bad or anything like that. I never stole or hurt or did anything like that kind of thing, right? But I just did not care. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about anything. Like literally nothing. The only thing I cared about was getting drunk. Like getting drunk and smoking weed, and that was it. And there was moments that I did kind of care, like I showed some kind of care because I felt like I maybe had to, but like I really didn't. And the moment that I started saying, okay, you know what? Life is better than that. Like you don't have to live life like this anymore. You can literally change anything about your life in a moment. Just start doing it differently. And it was so weird to say, I'm not going to drink. It was difficult. I did it in a day, and I didn't even know what day I did it. I did it one day. I was just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing this. And the next day, I didn't do it, and I don't remember the day. I can't. Like, I look back, I couldn't tell you what was it like. I don't remember thinking. I don't remember what I did that day. Nothing. I just completely ignored it. I forgot about it. I said, fine, you're out of here. And that was the way I did it, cold turkey. And it was not a good way of going about it. Like, I mean, I've told people this many times. Like, when it comes to trying to, especially if you're a long-term alcoholic or you've been drinking for a long time, it's not something that is going to be easily just like given up and you're going to go like, oh man, I think awesome now. Like, I don't have all this alcohol-based consciousness going on. I'm like, thinking really clearly now. No, what ends up happening is you start exposing all the reasons why it is that you were drinking in the first place, which is really hard to deal with. Right? And most people can't do it. That's why they end up going back to drinking. So I encourage people to go to the rooms because when you go and at least go and hang out with people in like the AA programs, what you are doing is you are finding other people who are like-minded, who are going through the exact same things that you are going through and having the same thoughts and ideas. Most people don't get to share in this kind of like relationship with their family or even the loved people that are closest to them because they never experienced it on this level. And so when you're in those rooms, you're experiencing it with those people who have had it on that level. So once you realize you can change your life in an instant, you can change it in a single moment, in a single day, right? Just that day, start doing things different. Just step into the unknown, step into the fear, and start doing things differently. Brittany coming up, putting her fist on my desk. Dude, you need to go and start a blog or a YouTube channel because everybody in the, like, she didn't say this, but like what I am hearing is this is yet happening again. This person is telling me I have to start a blog or a YouTube channel to start getting this information out there. This person has her fist on my desk saying, please go out there and do this. And I think to myself, what am I waiting for? That day I go down there, I fire up the camera, I start it up, I make a YouTube video, and that was the day I became a YouTuber. Like literally that day. All the time I've been thinking, man, what am I waiting for? I should have a YouTube channel. I should be talking about this. People telling me I should be talking about it. Everybody out there saying I should be doing this. And yet I sit here waiting for permission. And it took Brittany with her fist on my desk to give me permission. I already had permission. I already had it. I didn't need her permission. All right. I had permission to change my life at any different time, any moment I wanted to. And that was the day it was for me. Matt, you could do weed dispensary sponsorships. Actually, that's funny, Matt, because um, I did have a guy who asked how much it would be to do a commercial for his dispensary, and what I told him, I said, okay, well, this is how much I get paid to do a commercial, or I have been on the time, and he went like, whoa, and then he never asked me again. So I mean, I should go up and ask him. And I was just like, hey man, I'll do a commercial on my channel for whatever for your dispensary. You know, it's not up to me to decide what it is that people should do with their lives, and whether or not they find weed, a good or bad thing. Know that all too well, Larry. All nighter hider. Nope. Laugh out loud. I need to stop, but it's hard. Yeah. Are you talking about drinking, Larry? I want to stop drinking, but I'll do it next weekend. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Self-justification. Self-justification is your crucifixion, right? Yeah, it's always next week. It's always tomorrow. Like, I will always think in the morning, I will never drink again until the end of the day, and then I'll drink again, right? It's never the right time. It is never ever the right time to quit drinking, right? Because the right time is exactly right now. There is never going to be a good time. Like people say, "Oh, I'll quit drinking after the holidays when I can handle it." All right? No, you can't, because after the holidays there'll be something else you can't handle, and you'll still be drinking then. There's never a good time. Quitting drinking starts now. What you have to do is you quit drinking and you think, okay, this is what it feels like to be addicted, because what I'm going to go into is the feeling of addiction. See, people think of this as like, I'm addicted to alcohol, I do it all the time. Not really, because if you were feeling addicted, then you would be thinking about it and not, living the sober life, right? You would be drinking, which means that your addiction has then taken over and it's like no longer there because you're hammered, right? Addiction is the thought about it, is happening. So live in it. Live in the feeling of addiction. Just know what it's like. Man, I'm addicted to it. It sucks. I'll think about something else if I can. Probably won't be able to. I'll play cards while thinking that I'm addicted. I'll watch TV while thinking I'm addicted. I'll go to work while thinking I'm addicted. Right? And it sucks. You can't get your mind off of it. And it's going to be that way for a while. Eventually it does go away. You have to kind of force yourself to do it. You have to find things to entertain you, go fishing, be completely bored with your entire life, wondering, man, it's been months, I'm still bored as complete. I can't believe how bored I am, how depressive this really feels. I just want to go and get drunk with my friends. I know the feelings. I've been there, right? But pretty soon you start finding that, man, the good things in life that did start coming from it. I got a bunch more money. I was able to get out of debt. That was pretty nice. I got the new truck. That was pretty cool. Go fishing a lot more with, that old buddy who I hadn't seen for a long time, who goes to church all the time, I fish with him a lot. All the good things start happening. And then pretty soon you start realizing it was just like, man, I don't miss it that much, right? In fact, pretty soon you only really think about how bad it really was. You don't think about you think, man, it would be really cool to go get drunk and hang out and, at the party or whatever. But then you think about it, it's just like, man, but I don't want to deal with the hangover. I don't want to deal with the loss of money. I don't want to deal with the fighting with the wife. You think about all those things and you're like, man, I'm not going back into it. You'll always miss it. You always miss it. 4 o'clock rolls around at work. Every single time I'm at work, I think about what it is to crack a beer. I don't know why. I talk about it. We joke around about it, whatever. By 4:30, I don't even think about it. I'm in my car. I'm driving home. I drive right past the store. Don't even think about it. But at 4 o'clock, I do. And I think that's something that's probably going to be there for the rest of my life. I kind of laugh at it now. It's just it's just I get this weird. It's just like, man, I want a beer. That's so weird. I'm thinking, oh, it must be 4 o'clock. Right? You know, it's just like it just like that's just the way it is, you know. All right. You be you, I'll be me. That's all we can do. Yeah. I struggle with coding. Yeah. You know, I never really got into stuff like that. All right, maybe they could use you for a sponsorship. All right. Are we gonna hang out longer, guys? We're an hour and a half. Oh, here we go. $5, I guess so. Thomas Crown, thank you so much for the $5. Hi, Simon. I appreciate how you are about everything in your personal life. What is your biggest regret in life, if any? I don't regret things in my life because you know what I found is that some of the things that I just really like hated happening to my life ended up being probably some of the better things. So I don't really have any regrets. Like everything every bad occurrence, everything that I found caused a lot of pain actually turned out to be probably the best things that happened to me. Like because it led me into things that I didn't know were going to occur. Like the foreclosure of the house was a very painful experience. But if I didn't go through that foreclosure, I don't think I would be here doing YouTube videos. All right. Like I wouldn't have had that experience of like, how come I'm losing everything in my life? How come, we're going through this recession? How come? I wouldn't have had that running through my head, and I probably never would have done the amount of research that got me into to the level of understanding of where I am today. Like I don't know if that would have happened. You know, there's a lot of things. I can think back on so many things in my life that if they hadn't occurred, I don't know if I really would have learned the lesson. Right? Like the I was experiencing some pain or toxicity or something in my life, and I was growing accustomed to that. And then once it was gone, once it was like relieved from it, and then usually it came from some traumatic experience, like getting fired or whatever. But once I realized that happened, it was just like, no, that's where the freedom began. That's where the true understanding of why it is that I was in that situation and how it is that I can actually grow from this particular event and become a better person and better understanding of how it is that I got there so that I don't get there again. If I didn't experience this severing, this painful experience, I don't think I would have learned that lesson. Like, literally, would never have thought about it in a way that said, man, think about this differently because what just happened is something that you don't want to experience again. Why did it occur like this? Why? Okay? You start answering those questions and you're thinking, man, thank God it happened. Right? If it didn't happen, I might still be there. I might still be experiencing that thing again. Right? So thank God it happened. I'm glad I got this experience. I mean, as painful as it was, as devastating, as much loss and frustration and hate that came from it, man, if it didn't happen, what the hell would I be today? So I don't hold regrets. I mean, there's some things in my life that I think, man, I wish this hadn't occurred, but usually it's a personal experience, something that, you know, some kind of loss of a friendship or a breakup or, a disappearance or, a disappearance in my life that I wasn't ready for. That's usually the only things that I look back on and say, man, I wish this wasn't the way it is. Like right now, I don't feel punished in my life at all. Not for anything that I've ever done. Right? Like I feel completely rewarded in every way. Like I don't feel punished in any way. Like a lot of people say, man, I feel punished with the struggle. I'm not saying I like the struggle, but I like the fact that I have to push. I'm glad it's not perfectly easy. I'm glad it's easier than it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm glad it's not easy. I want it to be a struggle. I want to be able to go through this and say, yeah, this was a hard work and effort and time and commitment and everything else into it. I want at the end of it to be sore and beat up and proud of what it is that I have done, right? To say, yeah, I accomplished it, right? And it wasn't an easy task to get there, but it was worth it, and every bit of it was awesome. no matter whether it felt right or not at the time, right? And that's the way I feel. I mean, about everything. Like I don't feel punished. Yeah. Like there was a time in my life I did. I felt like I was not, it wasn't fair. I was being pushed down. I wasn't allowed. All the things like, all the stuff that would lead you to believe that you were in trouble or punished or not deserving or not worthy or whatever. I felt those things. Like I felt them on many different levels. And I gave that up. I was just like, I'm not going to think that way anymore. And it's hard not to. Like your subconscious is built. Like by the time you're 40 years old, unless you are actively thinking about like, man, I am going to change the way that I think about things, how I feel about things. I'm going to learn lessons that I didn't know that I needed. Right? I mean, you just know it. And you go out there and you try and you get your ass whooped and you're thinking, man, that was a lesson I learned. Thank God I got that lesson. Hopefully it doesn't hurt as bad next time. And you go out there and you try it again and whack, yep, it hurt. Lesson learned, go out there, try it again, right? And then you keep going until eventually you're like, it doesn't hurt. You're not getting whooped. You're actually being rewarded, and so I don't know how else to say it. Everybody knows. You know deep down inside. You just know it. If you're doing good or if you're doing wrong. You know it. You know every day when you're sitting there in your house watching TV, drinking beer, eating garbage food, you know deep down inside that you're not doing it. You're not doing the right thing. You could be doing something different. You could be coming up with that next business concept, making that next, networking that next contact, doing whatever it is that you got going on in your life that says, yeah, man, I need to advance beyond what it is that I'm doing out here. You know when you're doing right or wrong. But most people want to justify that it's okay. They want to say, hey, man, it's all right. I can take this time. This is me time. I already worked and chased excellence for 8 hours. I can unwind for a little bit. And then they go and chase pleasure and unwind all the excellence that they had done. So it's this understanding, putting yourself in the mindset that I am always chasing excellence, everything that I do, right? In every way. Because right now, this moment, this is all I have. And if I'm not chasing excellence right now, what is it that I am doing? Like, it's okay to be in a pleasurable experience and just let go and be in that moment. Because that's what it is. If you're at the concert, be at the concert, right? Enjoy the music. Don't be working at the concert. Don't be chasing excellence at the concert. You're at the concert. Enjoy the concert. Once the concert's over, go back to chasing excellence, right? But that's the point of it. Is just like if most people who in their mind what they do is they are at work and they are thinking about what it is that they can do for pleasurable experiences, right? When they should be at work thinking, what is it that I could be doing to go the extra mile? Because by going the extra mile, all the rest of the opportunity is going to come to me, and that's what's going to make my life easy. And by having an easier way of life, I can then go and do those pleasurable experiences on occasion when they come up and it's time to chill out and relax and enjoy it. But I don't have to go and pursue those things on a daily basis or say, now at the end of the day at 5 o'clock, it's me time. And that's it from that point on. That's where people fall into the pleasurable experiences of drinking alcohol every single day. You know, but if you're like, man, I don't have time to drink alcohol, I got other things to do. Do you meditate? Yep, I sure do. And it's kind of funny because people, like, I used to think that meditating was like some really kind of weird, hokey thing, but it turns out that meditation is one of the greatest things for changing the way that you feel and believe and think and operate. Meditation is amazing, absolutely amazing. And I couldn't push it enough. What I found is that everybody that I talk to who does meditation, kind of, when they meditate, they all do it differently. Everybody has their own way of doing meditation. And I mean, the way that I've figured it out and done it and stuff, I don't know. I learned from, a particular way, and it worked for me. After trying so many different ways of doing meditation, there was a couple of them that I picked up that I said, man, these are the key ones that I really enjoy and they work for me. One of the things that I have found is that you really don't need the meditation. Now, it's so helpful, especially if you're really trying to get deep into that subconscious and change the way that you are feeling on the deep inner side. Like if you have low self-esteem, if you have built up shame, if you have all this other stuff and it's buried deep from a child, from the way that you were raised in the family that you had or whatever, that is in your old, right? If you're old and you're in your 40s, because by the time you get to your 40s, it's very difficult to change. This is going to take some deep rooted thought and energy in understanding. Most people have to go through therapy and like deal with like a therapist or something of that nature. You don't necessarily need to do that. You can change the way that you feel in the inside by changing your subconscious belief. Now, the way you do that is in and this is very critical to it, is that you have to do it within the first 20 minutes of waking up or the last 20 minutes before you go to sleep. These are the two spots in time in which that you can really change the subconscious. You can really change the way you feel and behave and all the stuff around you, all the energy fields and stuff. It happens within this time frame. Now, what I have found is that most people will like not take advantage of this particular time. They will screw it up by watching like maybe TikTok reels or watching the news or something of this nature. And so you think about those 20 minutes that you had been screwing around on your phone or the whatever's been blasted at you on the TV, whatever it is that's going in there is now being locked into your subconscious. So if you're listening to like Alex Jones type of material, back in the day, like I used to before you went to sleep or as you were going to sleep or maybe while you were sleeping, this is the type of thing that's going to get rooted down into your subconscious in the way that you feel. Right? I lost my light here. And the same thing when you wake up. So a lot of times when people wake up, they immediately go right to scrolling and stuff like that. So if you take advantage of these two particular times, and I'm going to leave it at this because I'm going to go in and get something to eat. But if you take advantage of these two particular times, and a lot of times it's going to be through meditation. This is where people will find the easiest way to deal with it is that they will meditate right before they go to sleep, or maybe like shortly after they wake up. But I find that these are the two times. And if you just think, think about some of the things that you are wanting in your life or wanting to change or wanting to feel or believe. And now a lot of times we simply just don't know what that is. Like we don't know how to feel. We don't know how it is. We know that we don't like having the low self-esteem. We know we don't like having the shame of whatever it is that we have shame in. We know we don't like it. We know we don't deserve it. We know that it was childhood rooted, but we don't know how to feel otherwise. This simply just don't know that feeling. This is very difficult. So when it comes time to understand how it is that you need to feel, is you literally have to go out there and feel and be the experience of it. Sometimes you might have to like, if you want to feel like, I don't know, like maybe that you are tough. Like I'm just going to use this one for an example. Like you just want to feel like you want to be tough, right? Well, then go and hang out and be in things that are tough, right? Go and watch boxing matches. Go and go and start training. Yeah, go into that sort of understanding of what it is to be tough. And you don't actually have to be tough, but you do have to understand the feeling of what it is to be tough. Because once you understand the feeling of what it is to be tough, you will understand that you have a feeling of being weak. And if you feel weak, you can think, no, wait a minute, I don't want to feel weak. I want to feel tough. And I felt that at the times when I was in training or when I was there watching the boxing matches or during these particular times. It took a while to figure out what that feeling felt like, but I went to the areas in which what it took in order to feel it. And once you have felt it, then you know when you recognize when you do feel the weak. And now when you do feel the weak, you don't try to hide it. Right? You say, okay, I feel weak. Why? Pull it out and observe it. It was just like, why am I feeling weak right now? What is going on inside of my world that is now rising up that I feel the low self-esteem or the shame or something that is not the way that I truly want to feel out here? Why? What just triggered this? Observe that thing, right? Look at it, understand what it is, and say, okay, I remember this. I remember feeling this when my brother used to pick on me when I was a kid. He said I had a big head or whatever, right? And so now when I see people laughing about, something of a hat or whatever. I think they're talking about me because they're talking about heads and I have a big head, right? And all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, they're not talking anything about me, right? I just got this feeling, this low self-esteem, shameful feeling off of this, but it didn't have anything to do with me. Gosh, that's awesome. And now you can let it go, right? And so now understanding this is the type of thing. Think about those things, the last 20 minutes and the first 20 minutes. And that's how I have done it. Like, that's what I think about. I thought about like what it would be like to be on stage. That was what I was doing. I was thinking as I was going to sleep, I was thinking, man, it would be cool to be up on stage doing whatever, right? Or it would be cool to have or do things or whatever it is that I had going on in my life at the time. I just think about it. Think about people who are really good at fishing, right? That's probably what they're thinking about when they go to bed and when they wake up, right? Those people who are totally addicted to fishing, they're thinking, man, what would the next lure look like? What was it? Man, I can't wait to go to that stream. All right. And then they wake up and it was just like, so next time I'm going to use the chartreuse colored one. I'm going to, they just wake up thinking about fishing, right? Well, in their subconscious, they're a good fisherman and that's what they're going to end up doing. And that's what they're going to be good at. And it's going to, it's just the way the world ends up working on it. So a lot of times people will think about the stressful bills that they have. They'll think about like, the crummy relationships that they're in. They'll think about the piss ass job that they don't like going to. They'll think about all these sort of things when they first wake up or right before they go to bed, and then they wonder why it is that their life is so deteriorated feeling, why they feel like they're being punished. They're literally doing it to themselves. All right, guys. I'm going to go. Uneducated Economist, thank you so much for all the support. We got 70 people watching with 84 likes. Kind of a different sort of video. I guess they all been kind of sort of different. Got $48.21 in super chats because of all that support you guys have done for the channel. Thank you very much for being here. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.